Well, I'll tell you what. If you want to see some wrestlers get some TV time, Jesus Christ, the main event was the 6-man tag team championship tournament match of the week. But apparently, because they had the 3-minute world title match, either they didn't want to come out and say, and we booked some standby matches. They just wanted to give the impression it took them by surprise. And with the main event 6-man tag coming to the ring, they had 33 minutes left on this show. 33 minutes for this main event. Pac, Penthouse, and Felix, the Death Triangle, against Will Ostrich and Ozzy Oldham. 33 minutes. Yeah, that's what I said. Ozzy Oldham. And who are the baby faces? Ostrich and the fucking Aussie guys are surly and obnoxious, but the other guys are called the Death Triangle. A lot of fucking positive babyface energy and all of that. At the bell, and by the way, when the bell rings, they've still got half an hour on the air. At the bell, Felix and Ostrich immediately started running the ropes and jumped into the most ridiculous Flying Walinda's choreography routine that you've ever seen in your life. Nobody took a bump. Nobody was struck. They just vaulted and fucking cartwheeled and flipped. And then at the end of it, Felix actually got down on one knee and took a bow like the circus acrobats. Did you see that?
I did.
So I immediately zoned out on this thing. I was making notes for this show. I was taking Harley out to pee. I left it running because I thought, certainly to God, maybe there'll be something after this. But no, this match lasted 30 minutes. None of it made a lick of sense. It was the most offensive, silly, cartwheeling choreography you've ever seen. No heel, no baby face, no logic, no flow. They just did moves to each other over and over. No rules were adhered to. The work was the shits. There isn't one fucker in this match that I would not have kicked out of Ohio Valley Wrestling because they weren't ready to attend wrestling school, because it doesn't look like they ever went to wrestling school. They trained as competitive cheerleaders and watched video games. That's how these guys prepared to become professional wrestlers. And like I said, nothing made any sense. At one point, Ostrich and Pac did 18 things in a row to each other, and neither one of them sold any of them until they were all done, and then both of them just laid there and milked a double countout. And at one point, Jim Ross blurted out, he just made his own comeback. Like they'd get heat on a guy, and then the guy would fucking make his own comeback and bump 2 or 3 of the opponents and then tag out to his partner, who then had a fucking handful of shit in his hand. I mean, the only baby faces that I've seen be able to get away with half-ass making their own comebacks were Dusty Rhodes and Jerry Lawler, and the way that they did it, they started their own comeback and then tagged the partner to continue it, and it was still flat on the partner, but they were the stars. But this was a goddamn abortion. And the biggest thing, we're almost done with it. Don't worry, folks. I didn't watch any of this actual fucking match to critique it as a match because of the obvious reasons I just mentioned. But AEW Botches on Twitter tweeted this out with a shot clock.
Oh, I saw this.
You saw the, okay.
Yeah.
So Ozzy Oldham, the tag team from Australia, they take a bump out on the floor, and
Aussie
Pac.
Open?
And
Yes.
Aussie, whatever. We've talked about Pac. He looks like a badass. He's got a great physique. You can tell he's a good athlete. And if he had a lick of sense in his brain, if he had a brain and knew how to work, he'd be a star. But instead, he keeps trying to do all the flips and the fucking gymnastics, and he can't. He takes 30 seconds every time to get up on the top rope or get ready for the jump or get ready for the move. And he does all this screwy shit in the middle of his matches that just kill him. So in this one, Ozzy Oldham, they to both take the bump out on the floor around the ring post, and Pac climbs to the top rope with his back to them on the floor and tries to stand up on the top turnbuckle and or the ring post and do a backflip off. And AEW Botches, like I said, took the clip and put a shot clock on it. And from the time that the guys bumped and rolled out on the floor and Pac got up on the top rope to the time that he was actually able to steady himself and jump off of it, 28 seconds. He couldn't stand up. He couldn't get it. And these two morons were still back there by the time that he actually did do the flip. And wouldn't you know, he landed on them. They caught him. They stood there and fucking caught him after 30 seconds of standing up. I guarantee you not one wrestler in the territories would have still even been on the floor. They would have already been back in the ring looking at him face to face going, you missed your chance, Jack. You're not going to make me look like a fucking fake idiot because you can't do the shit that you call. So fuck you, I'm over here. Get down, and we're going to start working again. But no, these two morons stood there and waited on him. And you know what? They probably had to because they knew he'd kill himself if they didn't, because all the time he was trying to stand up on that thing and jump off of it, he never looked back there to see if they were still there or not. So
it was a trust fall. It was a trust flip.
Oh, God. So Pac, at this point, we can pretty much tell is hopeless. If anybody's telling him where he's fucking up, he's not listening to him. That means he's an idiot. If he can't watch his own matches and see where he's fucking up, then he's an idiot. And every match he has is an expose of something. And people on Twitter were like, well, it was the camera's fault. They should have cut off of him so you wouldn't see that long setup. What were they going to cut to? A Mighty Mouse cartoon? You've got two guys down there on the floor,
counting,
standing there waiting to catch this guy that ain't in a hurry to go anywhere. You've got a referee actually just standing there waving his arms and trying not to count because they would have been counted out 3 times if he'd been counting. And nobody else in the match was doing any fucking thing. So what were they supposed to shoot? Here's an idea. Get wrestlers that aren't embarrassing and can do the shit that they try to do. Then you can shoot it. You don't have to worry about it. So that was that. And again, it was a rotten program with one great wrestling match, Dax versus Jay Lethal, and a real good promo, and a shitty main event that would not end. And
well, hold on. Is that the main event or is the Punk Moxley?
That was the main event.
Well, Punk Moxley's the main event.
Well, Punk Moxley was over in 3 minutes at 9:05 EST. I'm talking about the last match on the program. That was it. And they did that title match to put the plumber over that unless they have a real good way to get out of this and some real fucking good performances from other people instead of anybody except Punk, then they've just fucking hurt their biggest star for the sake of doing whatever the fuck. I don't know what they're fucking doing. Moxley needs to show up at that pay-per-view, needs to drop that belt on a raw fuck by a hot heel with a big mouth, and then he needs to run for several weeks doing all kinds of bad shit to people before Punk comes back from this injury. Then everybody'd at least be in the right place. It wouldn't be as good as if Tony had not been involved in this and they'd have done it right from the start, but it might be in the right place. Otherwise, I think we're seeing the beginning of the end in front of our eyes. Your closing thoughts.
You know, I'm not a fan of Moxley in the way he's been used, but at least the Punk Moxley thing, if you go with the idea of what I said, that it's leading to a match or angle, whatever, at the pay-per-view, it's leading to something. It was pro wrestling. We don't know what's going to happen. We saw Punk hobble off, being helped to the back. Moxley, the new world champion. It's pro wrestling. The main event, I caught myself at a few times watching it thinking of when I used to go to my kids' gymnastics stuff. That's the thing. Like when you see these guys preparing on the top rope and people on the floor, you know what to expect. And we've seen it so often that you know what to expect. It went on forever. The Pac thing was ridiculous. I think Ospreay is really talented. I just wish he would stop doing the choreographed, synchronized sequences. I mean, it's just they do sequences where they're running through their thing and they're going to do whatever they're going to do.
He's a very talented athlete. As a pro wrestler, he's a piece of shit. Because this is not what this is. And he's just making it obviously phony for the sake of being able to do the shit that he does that gets him over. And that's great for him. But if there were smart promoters still in the business, they wouldn't allow this one jack-off to do all this shit that he can do that makes the rest of the business look like shit.
But again, even though there are wrestlers who are big stars and there are wrestlers who people, not us, may consider big stars in this trios tournament, this trios championship, this trios division is the junior varsity division of AEW. And it's been in the main event 2 weeks in a row. It's been the lowest rated segment, I believe, 2 weeks in a row. I don't think people really care that much. But again, there are differences between a wrestling match and a spectacle like this where you're just waiting to watch the flips. It's like going to see the guy fly out of the cannon at the fucking circus. Dave Meltzer in The Observer, I had to read you this.
Oh, boy.
Because I was stunned by this. I really was. And I knew some people would like it. It was another great Dynamite when it came to in-ring wrestling.
What?
With Jay Lethal versus Dax Harwood, I had 4.25 stars. And Will Ospreay and Aussie Open's win over Penta and Pac and Ray Phoenix, to me, was among the greatest matches in the history of the show and an easy 5 stars. It was the best trios match that I've seen since the PWG match with the Young Bucks and Adam Cole versus
Lord.
Ospreay, Ricochet, and Matt Sydal. And you can argue it's even better.
Yes, it's the greatest thing since Pro Wrestling Chimpanzee, where people spilled beer on me in a barn in Cucamonga. Jesus Christ. See,
I knew people would like it, but 5 stars, give me a fucking break.
Oh,
what?
Come on.
It's another 6-man match. People will forget it.
It was another sloppy, phony, choreographed gymnastics version of a 6-man match with cheerleaders playing wrestler. And poor Uncle Dave can't figure out what the difference is still to this day. Thank God he was never in charge of a wrestling school, or imagine we wouldn't have anybody could put on a headlock anymore. We'd have plenty of fucking 4 cartwheel handspring elbow roundoffs, but not a goddamn headlock or a fucking knee lift.
The show ended with Omega and the Bucks coming out to confront Ospreay and Aussie Open, and I had a thought. I don't know if you would have seen the movie Summer Camp Nightmare, but did you ever read the book? I think it's the Butterfly Revolution.
Well, I was about to say, did I ever read the book Summer Camp Nightmare? No, I haven't read that book. I haven't seen that movie. I don't know about butterflies. I went to summer camp one time.
I haven't seen this movie in a long time. It's one of the last roles of your favorite, Chuck Connors. He plays one of the counselors in this movie. And there's a character named Stanley Runk the Punk. But basically, there's a summer camp, and a couple of the counselors, one of them who seems kind of benign, decide, hey, we have had enough of these head counselors and everything they're telling us to do. Let's take over the camp. Let's capture the head counselor. Eventually, let's kill the head counselor. Let's destroy his butterfly collection. Let's have anarchy. It'll be great. We'll be in charge finally. And they're all doing their thing, and eventually there are rapes and murders and all sorts of shit. And one of the kids is able to get in touch with the police, who eventually come and liberate the camp, and everyone gets to go home. And that is Summer Camp Nightmare. AEW is turning into Summer Camp fucking Nightmare. And Omega and the Bucks are the guys who have taken control of the head counselor. And we need the cops to show up and liberate that fucking show. This is the junior varsity division. This is the Summer Camp Nightmare division. And I'm not into it at all.